But if I have to explain this whole situation to you by giving contemporary examples, so let us just understand it in a very short manner, in a through the contemporary example. Okay, so how did the carrot and stick policy actually function more in a much more better way? So just try and understand this. Okay, that just look at this. Now here there was the British. Okay, here there was the British. Moreover, what do we see is that here there is the INC. The INC, it generally had two sections. One is the moderate, one is the extremist. The moderates, they carried on their function through the three P's. The moderates, they carried on their functions to the three P's. Okay, but the extremists, they are going to use the extra constitutional such as protest, Swadeshi and all. Now, generally, just take the example of today's time. The parliamentarians, that means the politicians who sit in the parliament, okay, are they going to do much more violent protest? Sorry, not violent. Are they going to do protest frequently? No, they are not going to do protest frequently. But let us just say that in today's time, if the INC is in opposition, if the Congress party, okay, let us just say that the Congress party is in opposition, and yes, they are in opposition. Okay, so what would happen is that some of the members of the Congress in today's time, let us just assume that all the members of the Congress, they were extremist. All the members of the Congress, they are going to be extremist in the today's time period of the Congress. Now what would happen is that here, or else let me just take it here only. Okay, so the INC, it is moderate and extremist here. So at that point of time, what happened is that these extremist leaders, okay, they generally favored the protest and everything. So whenever, and the extremists, they were also a part of the INC, and INC, it was the political representative of India, means it demanded things from the Britishers, and the Britishers could not deny to that. Okay, because it was the pan India level party. Now if the extremists, they are doing the protest anytime, so what would happen is that after that protest, the Britishers would arrest them. Now, as soon as the Britishers would arrest them, they belonged to a party in which there were also moderates. So what these moderates did is that they raised their voices. They raised their voices against the British, and they cried to them that, what are you guys doing, man? You have arrested the leaders, man. Leave the leaders. How can you arrest the leaders? So the moderates, they put pressure on the Britishers that led to the release of the extremist leaders whenever they went for a protest and they were arrested. So the moderates, they were basically the spokesperson, and the pressure building tactics was done on the Britishers. However, after the Surat Split, now the extremists had left Congress and the moderates were the only party that was there in the Congress. Now when the extremists had left Congress, so now whenever the extremist will do the protest and whenever the extremist will be arrested, will the particular moderates raise their voice? Obviously not, because now they are not belonging to the same party. So for this, now what happened is that once the Surat split happened, after that the Britishers knew that now the moderates will not be the spokesperson of the extremist, so they could easily suppress the extremist. So what the Britishers did is that the Britishers, they increased the government suppression. The Britishers, they are going to, bring in 5 new laws to suppress the extremists, and they started arresting the leaders at a very massive level. The extremist leaders, they were arrested at a very massive level, and for example, Tilak, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, he was arrested and he was put in jail for 6 long years. So that was the level of arresting that happened at that point of time. So when that arresting is going to happen, now what happened is that, just keep this thing in mind. Here, by the time period of 1907, when the Surat split happened, and after the Surat split, the extremists and moderates, they were divided. At that point of time, okay, the Britishers, they started arresting after 1907, okay, that is from the 1907-1908 onwards, the Britishers started arresting the extremist leaders. They were those extremist leaders who had conducted the Swadeshi and boycott movement, and because of the Swadeshi and boycott movement, the youth and the masses, they had rallied behind the extremist. The youth and the masses, they had rallied behind the extremist. So majority of the youth, not in the anti-partition struggle, but in the Swadeshi and boycott, had rallied behind the extremist. But what happened is that because of the increasing arrest of the leaders, the whole of the movement, now it became leaderless. Now when the movement it became leaderless, so it was an obvious decline of the Swadeshi movement. However, when the leaders were arrested, the people who followed their leaders, they were like, it's okay. Even if the leaders are arrested, no worries. Whatever the leaders had been doing up till now, we will do that only. So we will do the protest, we will do the strikes, we will do the Swadeshi and boycott, and all of these things to be done in a non-violent manner. We'll do this. But as soon as the people are going to do these particular movements, what is going to happen is that the particular Britishers, they are not going to allow these people to do the protest. The Britishers, what they are going to do is that the Britishers, they are going to, forcefully suppress them. The Britishers, they are going to suppress these particular people. They are going to lathi charge them. They are going to arrest them. So here there was no peaceful avenues left for protest. So when no peaceful avenues were left for protest, what happened is that by the time period of 1909, some of the youth at that point of time, they adopted to revolutionary means of carrying out nationalistic activities. Why? Because by the time period of 1909, India was, informatively connected with the other parts of the world. That means that whatever things happen in India, the information spread to Europe. And whatever things were happening in Europe, that information also spread to India. Now, what do we understand here is that by the time period of 1909, what is going to happen is that these particular people, okay, what is going to happen is that some of the youth, what they are going to do is they are going to, get adopted and influenced from certain European people, such as the Russian revolutionaries. Because in Russia and Ireland, what had happened is that some of the people, they had adopted to assassinations in order to get their demands fulfilled. So here also what happened in India is that by the time period of 1909, when all the peaceful avenues of protest were stopped, some youth, they are going to move towards such an ideology, and they are going to adopt to violence, and they are going to adopt to revolutionary mechanisms. And when such a thing happened, when they adopted to revolutionary mechanisms, at that point of time, 1909, 1910, what happened is that the Britishers are going to be assassinated. Means these people, they are going to be assassinating the British officials, unpopular British officials, and also the traitors of India. That means who were secretively giving information to the Britishers. So they started assassinating them. And here, when such assassinations happened, okay, it was to raise the patriotic sentiments within the Indians and to strike a fear within the hearts of the Britishers. Now, this will look into the revolutionary activity, this idea, that this context that I'm telling you, we shall be discussing it in the revolutionary activities. So, what happened is that here, because of so many assassinations happening, by the time period of 1911, the Britishers had decided to just annul the Bengal partition, to cancel the Bengal partition. But they were of the idea that if we cancel the Bengal partition in right now, okay, so what would happen is that in the cancellation of Bengal partition, the lower Bengal, it was also given to the Muslims, and the Muslims, they generally wanted the Bengal. Now, if we cancel the Bengal partition, so maybe even the Muslims, they would not be happy, and even they might adopt to assassinations. which they did not want. So in the year of 1911, prior to cancelling their Bengal partition, what they are going to do is that they are going to shift their capital to Delhi, and after that they are going to cancel the Bengal partition. So this is how the things were also done by the time period of 1911.